Okay, welcome back to the video on my route to the elusive 2400 racing. Okay, and I've got a game. This is 15 minutes each, so I believe this is technically a classic game. It might be rapid actually. No, actually rapid I think is the racing. So I'm 23:16. It's, fairly okay racing, but I obviously want to get to this 2400. Interesting. So they've gone to c4. I think this is called the whale opening. White's idea might be to play d4 if given the opportunity. Interesting. I'm looking at knight f6 as a move here. Knight f6, knight c3, and then c5, knight f3, c5, knight f3. Okay, I'm actually going to do something different. I am going to go c5. So this will encourage white to play knight f3 because they're... or not. This will encourage white to play knight f3 because of a Sicilian dragon type position. Alright, knight c6. So now, yeah, knight f3 is chosen. Now I'm going to do something a bit strange here, I think. I was recommended this line earlier last week. Now, white's playing d4. That would get them into a true Sicilian Maroczy bind. So I'm going to play e5. What this move does is it obviously prevents d4. Now, I have weakened myself. I've weakened the d5 square. That's compensated by the d4 square. What's very, very important, and as long as I don't blunder horribly with playing things like g6 and knight e7, which would potentially allow them to go into f6 with mate. My plan is actually to play f5, breaking very early, and their knight is blocking their path to the f4 square, so they can't break as quickly. So first I'm just setting up my pieces. There's no reason for me to rush this. Also, bishop g5 is a little bit annoying. I might even play f6 first, just to see where they go. Knight d5 has been chosen, okay. Knight d5. So what this does is it does allow bishop g5 to be annoying, but I'm not going to be concerned. Don't try to see ghosts. Let's go for it. f5. So I've achieved my pawn break. They have not yet done theirs. Now, knight takes knight, c takes, knight d4. No reason to do it. f4 looks very, very appealing at first. But there's also f takes e4. That's the move I'm really, really concerned with. F takes e4. D takes e4. Knight to d4. Knight takes d4. C takes d4. I have a protected passed pawn, which could be very, very strong. f4 is just so tempting, though. f4 looks really, really good in this kind of position. So f4, they could go somewhere. Actually, after f takes, ooh, it nearly works. I was looking at f takes, and then take on h3 with a deflection of their knight, but I can't quite do it yet. So the big decision is whether I play f4 or whether I take them on e4, or whether I do neither and I keep tension. Keeping tension is generally what you want to do in these positions. So maybe I should do bishop e6, but I am slightly concerned with knight g5, then allowing them to play f4. So I'm not sure about bishop e6. As you can see, I'm spending a little while on this move because it is, I think, a really critical moment in the position strategically. h6 to me just doesn't look like it does enough. The idea would be to go g5 and then f4 and have a big attack on the king's side. It is a candidate move though, h6. It does stop knight g5 and bishop g5. So h6, e takes f5, knight takes f5. Don't really see where they're going with this. And if knight h4, trying to play f4, I might be able to play g5 oh no, I could take their knight on d5. if I wanted to, and they take, and I take their knight, and I win a pawn. h6 is an interesting move, keeping my options open. If they take on f5, it'd be a difficult decision, but I think bishop takes f5 would be quite strong. But knight takes f5 is definitely up there in candidate moves. And what's white achieving right now? What's white's plan? That's the next thing to ask. Their plan is maybe to go b4, but I don't really see what they're doing in terms of developing. So I'm going to keep tension, as the books say. I'm going to keep my options open, wait for them to do something. I think I benefit a lot more from release of tension than they do if they take me, and vice versa. If I take them, I think they benefit. If knight h4, I've also got things like knight d4, and then knight takes knight, and I'm crushing. So knight h4 is... Oh, no, they've done this. Okay, so queen takes is just the obvious move. I don't want to allow them to have some sort of maneuver. I want to control b4 and d4. That cuts out lots of white's breaks. They have done pawn takes, so bishop takes is generally the move of the day. Looking very, very strong here. I can do e4 coming up. Knight to d2 has been chosen, so this move is designed to play knight to e4 with something. Knight b4 does look tempting, but knight d4 has to be the move. I'm taking advantage of their poor coordination. Knight e4 is actually playable next move, which is, slightly cramping my style, as it were. But e4, pawn takes, bishop takes, knight takes, queen takes, and then I've run out of ideas. Shouldn't have run out of ideas, but I seem to have done. Queen g5 is interesting, but it doesn't quite do enough. Bishop takes h3, pawn takes h3, queen g5 check, king h1. Again, I'm not quite there. I'm close. Queen h2. Queen h4. Sorry, king h2. And again, I'm close. I'm close to winning, but I'm not quite there yet. Now, knight to e4. Maybe I could trade. Take off their knight, and I just have a monster knight on d4, which is just going to be here for a while. So knight to e4 may not be that good. They could also be kind of potentially trying out moves like e4, f4. Again, I'm not certain if that works. So perhaps I play something simple like rook to e8 or even rook to f7. Rook to f7 is looking nicer, but queen to h4 just looks really good, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Queen to h4. If they go knight to e4, they lose a pawn. If they go knight to f3, though, I was looking at knight takes knight, bishop takes, some sort of sacrifice on h3, but possibly they're okay. Yeah, my attack is good, but it's not there. It's not quite strong enough. But I have got an advantage in the position. So do I want to open up with e4? That's the big question. That's the critical line. So e4, they could even play g4, but that would hurt their defense way too much. I don't believe they can play that. So e4, pawn takes e4 or knight takes. Bishop takes, knight takes, queen takes. Then their bishops attack twice. If bishop f3, I take and win a pawn. If bishop e3, I can play... I'm close to playing knight to c2, but then they have bishop d3. Bishop to e3 might be okay. But then maybe I just play knight takes bishop, queen takes, and then bishop d4. I'm better. I'm going to play e4 because I think knight to e4 might be just a bit too strong if I allow them to take and blockade the position. It's possible that I'm making a slight error here, opening up the game a bit too much, giving up the bishop pair. But my initiative needs to be protected. I have to do something to try and improve. Okay, they have done rook there. I was not expecting this move at all. Knight c2 appears to win. Let's have a look at it. Knight c2. Bishop d3. Queen takes rook. Bishop goes anywhere, queen takes rook. I don't believe them. I don't believe that this can work. Knight c2. If queen d3, I'll just take the queen off and then take the rook. If rook f1, I just take the rook on a1, I believe. Don't need to do anything complicated. And if they had done bishop d3 last turn, that would have been the more challenging move, I think. It's not over yet. So I could have still really messed this up. But I think if bishop d3, I was planning stuff like maybe even like queen to h4 possibly, trying to keep stuff on f2 and cause problems. And I'd still have a monster knight. I'd be able to play rook a to e8, and I'd have a very, very solid position. If they ever took my knight on d4, I would take back with the bishop, have a bishop pointing at f2. So my monster knight appears to be doing a great job right now, forking the two rooks. White hasn't yet completed development. That's the problem. They do have f3. I must admit I didn't see this at the time. I played knight c2, but after f3, I think queen d4 should be fine with a check. If they block the check in any way, which I highly doubt they would, I would just take their bishop is the only thing that can block, so I can take with the queen check. If they take my queen, I can then take with my bishop with a check. If they played f3, they have resigned. End of game. Wow. So with a little bit of opening knowledge, when I did that c5 with e5 combo, I think I got a very good position, almost King's Indian-esque. But let's have a look. I'm going to do, let me see, I'm going to press computer analysis mode if I can. There we go. So while I analyze it, I'll turn the computer analysis on, and at the end we'll see how badly I did, or how well I did. Right, so e4, d6 is a brief overview. Yeah, c4, the whale, I don't recommend it. c5. So if white goes d4 now, I take, their queen takes, knight c6, and I gain a tempo. h3, a terrible move. It's a pawn move which doesn't help their bishops out or control the center. Knight c6. Knight f3, so this move blocks the f pawn. And this led to me playing e5 with f5 as a quick 1-2 punch. Weakened d5, but their d4 pawn, the square, sorry, is equally weak because there's no pawn that can take anything there. Quickly fianchetto to make f5 more tenable. So we've got a similar position with our pawn structures in the centre, but notice how both my bishops are very well placed. The g7 bishop has good long-term potential, as you saw. c8 bishop's the more active one. White's bishop onto e2 is terribly inactive. That's why the King's Indian position nowadays, in this kind of formation as black, is more popular than what's called the Old Indian formation of knight f3, bishop e2. It doesn't have a lot of potential there. So knight e7, I don't want to block my f pawn or my bishop. I want to play a kind of English Botvinnik, but as black. Castles, castles. Again, f5 needs to be done, but I don't need to rush. I can play it at my leisure. Knight d5, and I don't want to take, because it lets their pawn take on the c file, cramp my position. White usually wants to attack on the queen side in these types of positions. So do I suppose, but it gives white more space. I don't like that. f5. Queen c2, and I think my move here was really good. The computer seems to think it might not have been the best move, but I like keeping tension. I don't want to play f4 or takes and declare what I'm trying to do. I want to keep them in the dark and cut out some moves. They release tension. I think that's a dreadful move. It's only a slight improvement for me and worse for them, but I think this was really, really important. They shouldn't leave their knight on d5. They shouldn't get rid of it. They should leave it there, and it's a constant kind of thorn in my side. So no more outpost for a knight on d5. They can't get that f3 knight there anytime soon. I can easily get my knight to d4, and a lot of people say take with the pawn, and computers seem to like it too. I used, until about 2 weeks ago, I was always taking with the pawn because it gained me more space. But I found that taking with the bishop leaves things much more active. I've got the f-file, bishop's in a good place, got very nicely placed pieces. And I can always come back to e6 with the bishop if I need to. And this definitely is more flexible than taking with the pawn. Knight d2 I think is awful. It doesn't stop me going into d4 with my knight with a tempo, which is a really critical move. And the evaluation has gone from, well, on move 12 for me, minus 0.3. One move later, it's 1.2. So they lost basically a whole pawn in terms of their position in one go. Queen d1 was forced, and e4 might be one of the best moves, because I didn't like knight e4, where I'd have to either take it, giving my knight an even bigger role to play, but it would lose the two bishops and close the game up when I want to open it up to try and annihilate them. And I couldn't see another move, like some silly pawn move like b5 or g5. I thought I had to improve the pieces, so by pushing the pawn I improved both my bishop's potential and also my queen, possibly my a8 rook has a place to go to e8, where it has an open file. So bishop takes is apparently wrong. I should do rook a to e8. I will admit I missed that. It's a very nice move, because if pawn takes bishop, I take their bishop with check with my knight. So takes. It's now actually basically equal. It's actually white who may have a tiny advantage. Knight takes, queen takes. So yeah, white may even have a small advantage after bishop d3, which I was afraid of. But I think positionally I'm doing quite well here. I think it likes bishop d3 because if I play queen h4, I lose g6. If I go queen e6, there's rook e1 to gain time. But that's a kind of temporary like mini tactic. As long term, I think my knight's very, very strong. Anyway, rook e1 is a huge blunder. Knight c2. I don't know what white's best move is, but it doesn't look good. Let's see how I did on average centre pawn loss. Pretty good, pretty good. 18 is it's quite nice. I was basically ahead the whole game, if you don't count like one move basically when I missed rook a e8, and then obviously right at the beginning, computers give white having the advantage. But it was only what 3 moves in where the computer now switched to an advantage for me because of that h3 move. So overall, I was ahead pretty much the whole game. 18 centre pawn loss is great. 2 slight inaccuracies that I made. One was rook a e8, and I can't remember the other one. It was probably nothing too bad. Oh, it was bishop takes f5. It claimed to be inaccurate. But again, I would argue with the computer on that one. So overall, a good game. Let's see how many points I gained. I gained probably like 1. No, I gained 2. All right, I gained 2 points. So overall, not a bad showing. I hope you enjoyed the video, got something from it that was useful, and I will see you next time. Bye.